So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show on a Tuesday. Sorry, on a Monday. Got the days wrong. I'm working in my Windsor and Newton, which is upside down. And these are full pans. You can get the same set for about £29. You get 48 half pans, but this is 24 full pans. And I like this set because it has the right amount to have some good mixes of colour. And these particular ones I've been mixing in different things. But I've just taken a couple of the reds together and I've picked up some of this yellow. And I like my water brush because it kind of naturally, and these are really well pigmented, these. So it kind of naturally takes the colour paler. So these are probably not quite as pinky, so I'm just going to touch a bit of this pink. And I did spray it first. So depending on what your favourite colour is, that's a slightly bit better colour. So I did some pale colours to start with, but when you get your right colour, you can kind of darken them up a bit. And this is just kind of a really quick, simple way to work. This is nice to do in the garden. I think I have a video of me doing this in the garden. It's just kind of relaxing. You're not really colour mixing, you're just grabbing a bit of colour. And especially with the mushrooms, we've got a couple of reds that go together quite nicely. And it makes a nice red. Of course, toadstool don't have to be red, but I seem to do all mine red. So that's the process. Just touching a couple of different reds. Now if that was a yellow, I'd clean the brush because obviously the red would go into the yellow, but because they're both almost identical. One's a cadmium hue and one's a darker cadmium. And although these are student grade, they're really, really good quality. The pigment in them is just a little bit less than in the professional ones. And so for the price, they are extremely good. I mean, I've made all this and they almost last forever in a colour book because we're not using them in a wishy-washy way. We're just... I prefer a smaller brush, but for quickness and for just be simple colouring in, this is quite pleasant. Because your water brush is keeping everything nice and damp, but not too damp. It's a number 1 derwent watercolour brush, water brush rather, which means it has a barrel with water, and the little number 1 brush gives out just a small amount of dampness. It doesn't flood out. A water brush that's designed for watercolour would flood the page, and of course this is an ordinary colour book page. It's not watercolour paper. But it's quite nice to work with a set that you could buy and do watercolours for something else. So it's not a set just for watercolouring in your book. It's for doing all sorts of things. I think I've got 1 or 2 more toadstools. Oh, quite a few more when you start to look about. And this brush kind of is just a bit wetter than a perpetual marker, so I like that. Now these look like different mushrooms, so I'm going to do those brown. And there is the kind of a reddy brown there, so I can squeeze some water out. I've also got a baby wipe on the side there, so I can kind of really clear that out. think I might want some sienna colour, I think. This is the one that's always sticky because it's quite a nice colour, so I'm getting quite a lot of water out of this brush. I kind of like this olive colour as well. Oh my goodness, apologies for the buns. So we've got kind of an olive ochre colour kind of going on here. But again, it doesn't really matter. You could use the straight from the, oops. You could use it straight from the pan. You don't have to mix it with other colours. It's just if they happen to be there, it's quite nice. And then you could go back in there and put a little bit of detail in a bit later when it's dried. You can work over this, but you do need to leave it a good few hours before you go back, really, in order for it to kind of really, no, I want a bit of, just a tiny touch of a different colour because that one's behind it. And I think I've got them all. There's some red ones here, so I'm going back to this red. And this brush instantly reconstitutes it. It's quite warm in this room today. We've got just a couple of little toadstools there. And it doesn't matter if you miss them because you've got your red still. So I kind of like that. It's quite nice. So I've got a fern kind of colour coming around there, so I can just squeeze out on a baby wipe. So this isn't how I normally work. This is, I think I like that colour there. It's kind of a, that's got some red in it, so. I don't know, I like this one, I think I like this one. Sometimes you have to spray them twice. So. And then if we need to kind of get a paler version of it, it will happen naturally. Because the water's still coming through. And using all the brush manipulates the water out. So when I normally use these, I don't want to do this because I want to keep them as dry as possible, but because I want this natural highlight to kind of occur, then I am scrubbing with this brush, and then we want that shadow under there, and then possibly, and we can't do this too much, but after this now have to leave this and go back into it and put a bit more detail. So that's how easy it is to work. I shall zoom in and you can see it a little bit better. I'm just going to move that out of the way. And a little pop. So thanks for joining me, guys. This is a live show. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. Oh my goodness. Right. I don't know which light it is that's driving me nuts. It's possibly that one. So just by picking off these colours, So I had a bit of a fern there, so there's a sap green. So I'm going to put the sap green on there. I'm just going to spray again. So I've got this kind of... If you buy a water spritzer, they're quite expensive. And this is from a hand sanitizer that I bought my daughters from the pound shop. And it seems to have quite a fine spray, which is just absolutely perfect for your watercolours. So I find that quite useful. And I'm just going to put that there so you can see. It's nice to pick up a bit of something else as well, because we've got kind of two colours going on then. And this is for this. Just let me see if I can move that. So I've got this little green. Actually, I don't know if I want that colour. I want kind of, oh no, it's a fern green. So a sap green will be fine. So again, just... and I'll probably go back in it in part 2, I think, because it could take maybe an hour or so to do this, but not long. So you can just put this down with this particular water brush and then go back in it with a finer brush and just make some shadows. So you want the kind of the lightest colour that you want to use, really. So this seems to be quite a nice colour, and then, as I say, we can go back in there and give it more form a bit later. So all these I'm just going to colour in, and again, sometimes with these KERBY ROSANES I like to do that. I like to get a bit of something down, because there's a lot going on in the pages and it's very easy to miss things. So if you pick things like the mushrooms, the toadstools, and a certain flower or fern, by the time you've picked out quite a few, you've seen other things. So we've got a little curl here, just off camera. And there's just one there. And the thing with the water brush is you don't have to keep cleaning your brush. Most of your stuff is actually going on the page. I do have a baby wipe. So you need to clean all the colour out. So you've got to be a bit careful, because although these aren't professional watercolours, they're very well pigmented, so you're going to get a lot of colour. I now need the mushroom stalks. So I think I'm just going to take some of this cold yellow and mix that. And now I'm just going to go back under there and make sure I get all the mushrooms. And again, because this is a damp brush, it's just giving out every time. I'll drop more water, so the colour's getting paler, so if you just need to go back and touch up again, you can. But if you're doing a bigger space, it would be nice to have that softness. And then you wouldn't have to do a lot of work, then it's already done for you. So I think I've caught most of the mushrooms. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber, and that's taken the top of the mushroom colour down darker, just a touch. And now I've got my stem colour, and it'll look quite nice next to this colour because it's the same colour just with another one added to it. So again, there is a bit of continuity there, and sometimes it's not until the end, but sometimes you like a page and you're not sure why, and it's because you've used a limited palette and just mixed the colours together. Now, having said that, I've got 24 on this page, but in this palette. I think this is the best. I think 24 is about the best. You don't have to do a lot of mixing, but you can mix colours together that have already been mixed and get a nice colour tone. So I can go back in there and pick up a little bit more for this one. And apologies, the bunnies are digging for England. I think I've got a couple more stalks off camera. I've got to make sure that every mushroom has a stalk because it can't just sit in mid-air. So I want these little mushrooms here. And you always find more when you think you're finished. So we've got these kind of flowers growing, but I'm not sure what they are. But I think I want a green. I think I want a kind of a green. And I don't like viridian, so I've just got some viridian out. I don't really like it, but if I mix it with whatever's out here, I can tone it down a bit. Viridian's a bit of a, I call it a fake green. So I've always got a little bit of paper, so you can just test. So I've got it back into a grass green now, but viridian is quite a strong green. So I'm going to do the stems. I think I'm going to do the stems. I don't really like it, but I'll do them, and then what I'll get is another colour over the top, and it'll tone that down a bit. It's too fake for me. It's a nice colour, but I've never liked it. It's not one of my faves. It's a very bright, in-your-face green, and even though I've toned it down a bit, I still don't like that. But never mind, it's fine. I can always get round it. And I've mixed it, so I'm going to use it. And I've already started using it, so it would be silly to take it off. It's just two over there. Because it means that when I go over the next colour, they're all going to look the same because they've all got the same green. So I need to do the tops of these now. So get rid of that green. My baby wipe. You do need to make sure that whatever brush you use, it's clean before you go into your colours, because that's where they get messy. So I kind of want an orangey colour actually. I want orange. And of course the beauty of this brush is you just squeeze and you get water. Just give it a quick test. I think I want it a bit reddier than that. I'm going to just grab a bit of red. So I've got orange and I didn't like it, so I've put some red at this top, but I've kept the orange at that side. And that is now a reddy orange. So I'm going to carry on down the stem. And it's completely changed that green that was in your face. It's not in your face anymore. It's a dull orange, it's a brown, or it's a dull green, depending on how you look at it. It's looking a bit red there for me, but it's quite nice.